state to introduce new guidance on masking or other precautions?
Well, I think that we're fortunate right now that we're, we're still very much in control of the situation with our vaccinations. We're not expecting any real, danger points to hit Rhode Island, but we certainly are planning for that if in fact it happened. So last week our hospitalizations rose by 1, so we went from 18 to 19. So certainly for the 19 in the hospital, it's not a good thing, and most of the people who are in the hospital now are not vaccinated, right? As we reported last week, 92% of the people who are getting infected are not vaccinated. So I think that the metrics are going to be, if in fact hospitalizations spike, in any great way. We're not anticipating that. Like I said, we're approaching almost 80% of our adult population has been vaccinated in our state of Rhode Island, and which is a national leader. We're certainly still in that top 5, 6 in the country. But it'll be the same metrics that we used as we were working our way through the pandemic, which has to do with hospitalization rates, infection rates, and also, heaven forbid that we have any more, deaths, really. I don't think you really put a number on it, right? I think that has to do with where's the trends going and where you, where you draw the line. I think that right now we incrementally open the state up, and we're open now. I think we're opened in a way where we're not going to have to go backwards. But we're looking at everything, not only in the country. I was talking to the Louisiana governor the other day. He had a high percentage of increase in terms of infection rate. We're certainly following what's happening in Israel and other areas of the world. We'll just stay on top of it, and if there's a need to change direction, we'll let people know. But right now, we're very comfortable and confident that we're in good shape.
Governor, if you would, talk to us a bit about the teachers' contract settlement in Providence and what brought them together, or what got them over the hump, so to speak. They were quite far apart, I think.
Yeah, so details will come, as I mentioned in my open comments. We're still looking at, the ratification of the agreement by the union members. But I think that it was, an effort that we're very pleased with in terms of the way that the AFT stepped in. Certainly, I think our office stepping in as well, with taking the lead, but also taking what was already, building on what was there, and coming to an agreement. The idea was to come to an agreement before the beginning of the school year, and we're fortunate that we've hit that target. And like I said in my comments, we're looking forward to working with the teachers. We're looking forward to working with the administrators and others to move to have the City of Providence schools become school of choices.
Are you surprised?
No, as I mentioned, I think a few weeks back that we were making progress. I wasn't trying to mislead anybody at that point in time. We were making progress. And last night it was a pleasant call that I received from Tony Afonso, who was leading up the negotiations from our office, one of our deputy chiefs of staff, that in fact that happened. And I had conversations today with Randy Weingarten in New York, and pledging to make sure that we're working together to make good things happen for the students that go to Providence Public Schools.
All right, Governor McKee, we're doing microphones here.
Rental registration.
Yeah, I'll get that.
In just 1 second.
Yeah.
We're going to go Pat, Kelly, Ed.
Yeah.
Governor McKee, or this may be a question for Secretary Pryor. Let's talk about housing for a second. The development of the soccer stadium seems to be in full tilt. Meetings are being held this week and next week. It's all about the parking, though. It's all about construction. There's no conversation about housing whatsoever. We've reached out a number of times to Mayor Grebian, both in joint appearances with you and separately. We have yet to get a definitive plan. And now we hear conversations about mobile home housing, which is perhaps the most predatory model of housing that exists in America today for a number of reasons, which we'll be happy to bring up tomorrow. You've got skyrocketing rents in Pawtucket. you know, if in fact the train station and the stadium is successful, questionable, but if they're successful, that'll only exacerbate a difficult housing situation. When are there going to be firm proposals to address housing in northern Rhode Island as a result of all this development for, well, wealthy people from out of state?
Yeah, so housing is top priority. We know that there's some federal dollars that have been appropriated for that. There's rental assistance right now. There'll be mortgage assistance soon, you know, in a short period of time. And we plan to come up with a housing plan strategy. Lieutenant Governor Matos has talked about it. I'd love to have her weigh in on it for a few sentences here as well. But I'll tell you right now, people who are looking for housing, a warm bed is a good bed, and whatever way that we can make that happen, we will try to make that happen.
So I just want to address the mobile home situation. I think you should take some time and gonna visit that place. It's the Sherwood Village in Coventry. It is model place actually for 55 and older community. And it's easy to say that this is a predatory type of housing, but tell that to the people that are sleeping on a bridge and they need a place to stay. So housing is going to require, solving the problem of housing is going to require for us to be creative and to be willing to look at every possible alternative. So as of right now, I'm not saying that any style of housing or any is good, is bad. I think that they are all of them are part of the solution.
Well, I just want to point out briefly that isn't there a significant difference between 55-plus dedicated housing and your typical mobile home development? It's difficult to hear an endorsement when, in fact, nationwide, in mobile home housing, you don't ever own the property, and you're subject to all sorts of intransigent landlords, all sorts of difficult conditions. It's just, if that's going to be proposed as a trial solution in absence of anything else, we're in trouble.
So I believe you first of all should go and do what I did. Go ask questions, learn about the project. If you go and learn about the project, you're going to probably clear a lot of information that you have about it. I'm not endorsing this as the solution. This is a possibility. I'm learning about it and exploring alternative.
Yeah, it's a high priority, and I would say that it'll continue to be one. I was talking to the speaker today about the very issue. So as we get the Secretary of Housing appointed and we keep on moving forward, we're going to have a plan, just like we had a plan to move ahead on the Providence teachers contract.
All right, back here with Kelly. Everyone just please remember to wait for the mic so everyone can hear on the live stream. Thank you.
Governor, what are your thoughts on mask requirements for everyone in school regardless of vaccination status in light of the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendation?
So right now, we're going to follow the CDC guidelines and the guidance. We're going to stay with the CDC. We're going to, as a state, as I've said multiple times off the microphone, we're going to provide the guidance. The local districts will determine the policy.
You good? Okay, going over to Ed.
Governor, to what extent will this contract address the problems that were outlined in that Johns Hopkins report on the Providence School District? How transformational is this going to be? What role did you play? And did it help to take the commissioner out of that negotiation process?
Well, like I said at the top, we're just letting you know that there is an agreement in principle. We're not going to get into the details. I'll let those details speak for themselves. But I can tell you that we believe that both sides came to a good place, and I think that as the I think that I'll let other people speak for that. But I know that when we got involved, our office got involved. You know, there was a Judge Flaherty was doing mediating, and we were able to quickly move off of that mediation. So I think that both parties, both the union did a real strong job, and it was a good negotiation that we're pleased that we're going to be able to move hopefully with a ratification, which is still a formal step, and so until that's done, we're not going to get into the details of what the agreement was.
And what's the point you're trying to make there about being the school that this would become the schools of choice for Providence residents?
Well, the point is that I think we're all in agreement that we want our public schools around the state of Rhode Island to provide great education for the young people that live in our state. Providence is no different. And we do know that Providence, as well as other communities in the state, have lagged behind our peers in Massachusetts, which I've said for years. When I was a mayor of Cumberland, I wanted my high school to be a school of choice. I invested over $40 million in that school. And today that high school is a school of choice in our community in a way that it wasn't before. So I know that this can happen in any community around the state of Rhode Island. And I'm looking forward, once this contract is ratified, to provide a blueprint in terms of how I think that's going to happen and what role the governor can play and what role municipal leadership can play, parents and administrators, and the list goes on and on. It's a community effort.
All right, right here.
Hi, I'm Bethany, Newport Daily News, and I've been writing a lot lately about housing issues in Newport, and we have families that have lived there for generations, decades even, and the younger kids are having to leave the community all across the Quidneck Island, basically, because there's no housing available. I wrote a story about a mother of 5 who's basically going to be homeless within days right now, and she can't find anything in Newport. And one of the reasons that people are saying that this is happening is because of the influx of short-term vacation rentals. And I just wanted more of an explanation than the veto message that you sent to us as to why you vetoed that bill when there is a housing crisis in our coastal communities, especially here in Rhode Island.
Yeah, so I looked at that bill as more regulation than we needed. In terms of a registry, we have information at our taxation. Local communities can get the same information if they choose to do that. I know one community in the state has basically banned Airbnbs to be in their community. So I looked at it as more regulation in a time when we didn't need regulation, and then small business owners who are benefiting from that business. They're part of our economy, and I thought that penalties and paying penalties and that type of thing, the chase is on that in a way that I didn't think was very small business friendly. So and as our ways, I believe that we can address exactly what the legislation called for. I think we can do that through our own regulation. I think we can share information, and I think the local municipalities can manage the registration in a way that locally they can do that. So, and then finally, we know housing's an issue, right? So you're not going to solve it overnight, and there are some needs that need to be met around the state. And we know that we're meeting with the Builders Association. We're meeting with Lieutenant Governor about creating a plan. The good news right now is that we do have funding. There's no one that should be losing, is either renting an apartment right now that should be losing their apartment or be homeless as long as we get the money out that Rhode Island Housing is trying to get out right now, and it's still going out too slow as far as I'm concerned, especially when you start hearing these stories. So there's rent that's available to people. Call our office. We can steer you in that right direction. No one should be evicted out of an apartment right now. The moratorium is still on. And there's money that's available for both rent and, very shortly, mortgage assistance.
So the problem is that these people have money to pay the rent, but there is no place to rent. One family I spoke with could pay rent for 6 months, and they're having to leave Rhode Island because there's no places down there, and their jobs are there, their lives are there.
Yeah, so I think it's that you're asking a very important question. Right, and I'll be sharing my thoughts about how municipalities can actually help. I think that state-owned land, municipal-owned land can reduce cost of what the land cost is, but every community's got to step up. And many communities prefer not to have any construction or any home building in their communities. My feeling is we'll work with all 39 cities and towns, and I think that they all have a role to play. And I think if the general public is echoing what you're messaging right now, I think that's going to be very important as we ask the state and the local municipalities potentially to use some of the land that they own to help offset land costs so that we can get the cost down on certain, buildings. But I think it's going to be an absolute effort of all 39 cities and towns. And the people in the state of Rhode Island, if they want it and they demand it in their communities, then if every community just stepped up and built 50 units, what would that do? That would make a huge difference. Virtually every community in the state can absorb that. And so are we going to be able to put a plan together that does that? That would be my intention, to make something like that happen.
Patrick and then Anita.
Hi, Governor. Two things. One, cases are going up and have been in the last couple of weeks. I think this week we just crossed the 1% test positivity. You said there is a plan if that continues and hospitalizations go up. What are the tools in the toolbox? What are the pieces of the plan if those infections continue to rise?
Well, we still have the same team that was working on it when we had weekly, daily and then weekly press conferences. We'll reactivate those if we need those to let the public know more than what they know right now. I mean, we're still at a good place. We're not in a bad place in Rhode Island. I don't want people to think that we are, but that's the reason why we're still pushing extremely hard the message that vaccinations keep you safe, they keep your family safe, they keep you out of the hospital. And the people who are getting infected right now, last count was 92% of the people who are either in the hospital or who have died over the last 60 days are people who are unvaccinated. We need to keep the message alive. That's one of the reasons that we're doing this this program with the charities. We want that story just to be out front and center, that we need to do something. So we have the same foundation in our Department of Health with Tom McCarthy, working this every day and looking at it very strongly. And if there's a reason to put up a red flag, we will. And I've said this all along. Safety is the top priority.
Are there non-pharmaceutical interventions that the state either has ready to go or would even consider at this point, or are we past things like that? Capacity restrictions, business closures, masks, anything that's not vaccination, are we past that right now?
I hope so. We're not looking to move backwards in terms of reopening the economy or reopening the schools, and we're diligently working on safely reopening the schools. If for some reason you have to backtrack on that, I'm just telling you we're prepared to do that. But I don't see that in the cards right now.
And then one other thing, on open meetings, now you said that you don't intend to extend the executive order that requires remote broadcast of meetings. But for state agencies, they wouldn't have to do that without the order. But have you given them any guidance, or what guidance have you given them on whether they should continue to broadcast meetings because the public uses it?
So on the executive order, right now it will expire on July 23rd in terms of the open meetings. I felt as though that basically in all considerations, we're trying to reduce the executive orders, not increase them or keep them going. And where it makes sense in terms of able to use it without violating open meetings, we'll continue to do that. But right now, that executive order will expire on 7/23, July 23rd, and we've provided notice to all municipalities and anybody that needs to follow through on what open meetings look like in advance, so they could plan for that.
All right, got time for one more question for Anita.
Hi, Governor. That was part of my question. Have you said that you notified municipalities regarding this executive order expiring. Does the state plan on stepping in to help, whether it's financially or otherwise, to help municipalities stream their public meetings still? I know that there was high participation because of that, and I know some are interested in continue to stream it while still having people come in physically.
Yeah, so streaming is not that expensive. I mean, we did that in Cumberland 15 years ago, right? So in terms of a live stream, so people can actually participate, see what's going on in the meetings. We certainly would help any municipality right now that is maybe struggling on that technology to help them make that happen. I think that the more access, we did it in Cumberland when I was a mayor because I felt as though that access into public meetings was important and it was critical. So I think I would encourage every municipality to do the same if they haven't already done so.
Any other executive orders you plan on letting expire?
That's a good question. The sheet is getting smaller and smaller, and that's by design. We're going to keep the emergency order in place as long as the federal order is in place. There's, including, we talked about housing. I just want to make a point. If we moved away from the executive order, we would actually move away from the hotel program that is housing many, I think almost 240 people in the state of Rhode Island. So we're going to keep that emergency order in place, but the executive orders we're trying to reduce those as they come up. I can't say I can't really recall. I looked at the sheet late last week, but it's getting smaller and smaller. Yeah.